Keanu Reeves just stormed off The View Live. He snapped after Joy Behar's brutal question. See why Hollywood saint finally broke. The walkout heard round the internet. Not figuratively, but in a visceral, heart-stopping instant that sucked the oxygen out of the room. One moment, Keanu Reeves, Hollywood's undisputed king of chill, the internet's eternal nice guy, the actor whose very name conjures images of serene wisdom and quiet strength, was seated calmly on The View's iconic couch. He'd been leaning slightly forward, listening intently, his posture relaxed but engaged. The familiar set lights glinted softly off his dark hair, the murmur of the live studio audience, a low, expectant hum. The next moment, chaos. It wasn't a slow build, it wasn't a theatrical flounce, it was a sudden, decisive eruption of controlled fury. 1 second Keanu was there, his face a mask of intense displeasure but still seated. The very next nanosecond, captured in a blur by multiple cameras, was on his feet. It wasn't just standing up, it was a powerful, fluid motion, radiating finality. His expression, usually so open and kind, had transformed. Storm clouds gathered in his eyes, his jaw set in a hard, unyielding line. The legendary Keanu Cool wasn't just cracked, it was shattered, replaced by a palpable, icy anger that seemed to drop the temperature in the studio by 10 degrees. He didn't hesitate. Mic off. A swift, deliberate motion where he unclipped the small pack and let the wire drop to the floor with a soft yet deafening thud in the stunned silence. No glance back, no parting word. He turned with military precision and strode purposefully, almost aggressively, towards the stage exit. His long legs covered the distance to the heavy studio door with startling speed, his usually graceful movements sharp and driven. He didn't look at the audience, now a sea of wide eyes and dropped jaws. He didn't acknowledge the frantic stage manager near the wings, frozen mid-gesture. He was a force moving with singular, unstoppable intent. Get out. Left behind? Pure pandemonium. Co-hosts Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin sat rigid, their expressions a tableau of shock. Behar's face, moments ago animated with the combative energy of her questioning, was now slack, pale, eyes wide with disbelief and perhaps a flicker of panic. Whoopi Goldberg, the seasoned anchor, looked momentarily paralyzed, her hand half raised as if to stop something that was already irrevocably gone. Sunny Hostin's mouth hung slightly open. Sarah Haynes looked like she'd been physically struck. Alyssa Farah Griffin stared after Keanu, utterly bewildered. The air crackled with unspoken tension and sheer dumbfounded surprise. The audience gasped, a collective, sharp intake of breath that rippled through the bleachers. Whispers erupted instantly, frantic and confused. Did that just happen? Oh my God, he left. Cameras, initially focused tightly on the couch debate, suddenly swung wildly. Wide shots captured the empty space where the megastar had sat just seconds before. Close-ups zoomed in on the host's stunned faces, then frantically panned to the closing stage door Keanu had vanished through. The director's voice, a frantic crackle in the control room earpieces audible to nearby crew, barked unintelligible commands. Floor managers scrambled, signaling wildly, utterly unprepared for a guest literally walking off live. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't a pre-planned stunt or a dramatic exit for a movie promo. The raw, unfiltered shock on everyone's face confirmed it. The usually smooth, controlled machinery of live television had just suffered a catastrophic, unexpected breakdown. The catalyst? A brutal, escalating, and deeply personal verbal clash with Joy Behar that had pushed the famously unflappable Reeves beyond his limit. The tension had been building like pressure in a volcano throughout the segment, a slow burn ignited by Behar's increasingly pointed and, in Keanu's view, disrespectful probing. But the final question, the one referencing ancient, painful tabloid fodder about his past struggles during immense personal tragedy, had been the detonator. The silence after the door closed was deafening. It hung heavy for what felt like an eternity. Probably only 3 seconds, but an eternity in live TV. The only sounds were the frantic shuffling of crew, the low hum of the lights, and the stunned murmurs of the audience. Joy Behar broke it first, attempting to regain composure, a nervous, slightly defiant edge creeping into her voice as she muttered something barely audible into her own mic. Perhaps a justification, perhaps disbelief. But the damage was done. Setting the stage, charm, needles, and the unraveling of a saint. The air in the View's Studio 1A crackled with a different energy when Keanu Reeves walked in. Not the usual Hollywood flash, but a quiet, almost reverential hum. Dressed simply in a black crewneck and dark jeans, he greeted each co-host with a firm handshake and soft, "Hello," lingering a beat longer with Whoopi Goldberg, sharing a quiet laugh. The audience sighed collectively. This was the Keanu they adored. Humble, present, radiating grounded warmth. Reeves spoke about his new film not as a star, but as a craftsman. "The stunt team deserves the real credit," he insisted, eyes earnest. "They're the poets of motion." When Sonny Hostin asked about a viral video of him fixing a woman's stranded car, he deflected. "Neighbors help neighbors, right?" His dry wit surfaced, joking about accidentally buying enough kale to feed a small nation during quarantine. The audience ate it up. Applause breaks felt genuine, not prompted. Joy Behar played along, chuckling at his jokes, lulling the room into ease. It was textbook Keanu. Effortlessly charming, profoundly normal in a world of curated celebrity. The pivot was subtle but surgical. As Sarah Haynes praised his anonymous charity work, funding children's hospitals, quietly gifting Harley-Davidsons to John Wick's stunt crew, Behar leaned forward, elbows on the table, fingers steepled. "Keanu," she began, her tone deceptively light, "you give away millions, you ride the subway, you're famously un-Hollywood, but let's be real." She paused, letting the studio's warmth cool. "Some critics say it's an act, a meticulously crafted Saint Keanu persona. How do you respond to that?" The audience murmured. Whoopi's smile tightened. Sonny glanced at her notes. Reeves didn't flinch. He met Behar's gaze, his expression softening into something weary, almost sad. "I just try to live my life, Joy," he said, voice calm but firm. "Help where I can. The noise," he gestured vaguely, "is just noise." It was a gentle dismissal, a masterclass in deflecting poison with patience. "Come on," she pressed, a sharp edge cutting through her smile. "Everyone cultivates an image. Isn't the Saint Keanu thing just a bit too perfect? Doesn't it get exhausting? The pressure to be this paragon?" She spread her hands, playing to the audience. "Don't you ever just want to scream?" we began. You could hear a mic pack rustle. Reeves's polite smile didn't vanish. It crystallized. His knuckles resting on his knee whitened almost imperceptibly. The warmth in his eyes cooled to Arctic ice. For the first time, the effortless zen faltered. "Exhausting?" he repeated softly, the word hanging like frost. "Helping people?" A dangerous quiet bled into his tone. Behar mistook it for vulnerability. Whoopi jumped in, voice overly bright. "I think what Joy means is," Sonny tried to pivot, "your foundation's work with veterans is so..." Sarah offered a strained smile. "Maybe we should talk about the films." Behar steamrolled them. "No, seriously, Keanu." She barreled ahead, leaning further in, sensing blood in the water. "The narrative's airtight. Tragedy, generosity, solitude, it's almost mythic. Doesn't that level of sainthood feel unreal? Like a performance?" Reeves didn't look at the other hosts. His entire focus narrowed to Behar. The air thickened, charged with a tension so palpable the audience held its breath. His posture, previously relaxed, became unnaturally still. A predator coiled. That legendary patience, stretched thin over decades of loss and unwarranted scrutiny, was fraying at the edges. He'd navigated tabloids, grief, and Hollywood sharks with quiet dignity. But this was a live, televised character, assassination disguised as an interview. Behar, emboldened by his silence, smirked. "Cat got your tongue, Saint Keanu?" A muscle twitched in his jaw. His eyes, locked on hers, weren't angry yet. They were disappointed, profoundly, devastatingly disappointed. Like a teacher watching a gifted student choose cruelty. He took a slow, deliberate breath. The studio lights felt suddenly harsh, invasive. The cheerful set now felt like an interrogation room. The powder keg ignites enough. The studio lights suddenly felt like interrogation lamps. Joy Behar leaned into her microphone, a performative tilt of her head feigning concern. The air, already thick with tension from her St. Keanu accusations, turned viscous, suffocating. She didn't just cross a line, she detonated it. "And what about those darker times, Keanu?" she pressed, her voice slick with faux sympathy. "The stories? The ones that complicate the narrative?" A deliberate pause, heavy with implication. "The ones that suggest maybe the saint isn't quite so spotless? Doesn't that prove it's all just spin?" Audience froze, mid-breath. Sunny Hostin's pen slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Sarah Haynes physically recoiled, pressing back into her chair. Whoopi Goldberg's eyes snapped to Bihar, a silent, furious, "What are you doing?" flashing across her face. Bihar held Keanu's gaze, a faint, challenging smirk playing on her lips. She'd invoked the ghosts, the long-debunked, decades-old tabloid sewage, dredged up from the lowest depths of his most painful, private tragedies. Losses no human should endure. She wasn't asking a question, she was throwing mud at a monument, live on national television, and daring him to flinch. Keanu Reeves didn't move at first. He became utterly, terrifyingly still. The easy slouch vanished. His spine straightened, inch by deliberate inch, transforming him from relaxed guest to something formidable, ancient. Then, slowly, glacially, he leaned forward. Not aggressively, but with the focused intensity of a blade being unsheathed. His hands, resting loosely on his knees moments before, now gripped the edge of the couch cushion, knuckles bleaching bone white under the studio lights. The warm, crinkled kindness that defined him, the gentle gaze that launched 1,000 memes, was gone. Extinguished. Replaced by an arctic fury so profound, so disappointed, it chilled the studio. They weren't just icy, they were glaciers grinding stone. They locked onto Bihar with a terrifying stillness. His voice, low, quiet, yet it cut through the dead air like a scalpel, vibrating with a controlled, seismic rage. Every syllable was precise, weighted, terrifyingly calm. The studio mics amplified the subtle tremor beneath the surface. Not weakness, but the strain of a dam holding back an ocean. "We all have pain." A statement, simple, devastating. It hung there, acknowledging the universal wound she'd exploited. "We all have history," deeper now, resonating with the unspoken depth of his own. He paused. The silence screamed. Bihar shifted, her smirk faltering slightly under the sheer weight of his gaze. She opened her mouth, perhaps to deflect, perhaps to double down again, but no sound came out. "To use someone's past struggles," Keanu continued, his voice dropping even lower, becoming almost conversational, yet razor-wire sharp, especially inaccurate ones. He emphasized the word, a quiet indictment of her shoddy, cruel research, as some kind of a beat, a flicker of disgust twisted his lips. "Gotcha moment?" The word dripped with contempt. "On daytime TV?" The question wasn't a question. It was an executioner's axe held aloft. The studio audience collectively flinched. A producer off stage whispered a frantic, "Oh, Jesus Christ," into a headset. Keanu didn't wait. The dam cracked. To suggest kindness is a con. His voice gained volume, not a shout, but a powerful, resonant projection that filled the studio, vibrating with raw, incredulous fury. That, helping people, he leaned further forward, the intensity radiating off him like heat, is calculated? Bihar finally found her voice, a weak, fluttering interruption, trying to regain control, to diminish the atomic bomb she'd dropped. The exit and the aftermath, a saint's silent atomic bomb. The word asterisk cruelty hung in the air like acrid smoke. For 3 heartbeats, asterisk absolute stillness choked Studio 1A. Joy Behar looked as if she'd been physically slapped, her face slack, mouth slightly agape, the blood draining from her cheeks until they matched the stark white of the studio lights. Whoopi Goldberg's intervention died in her throat. Asterisk, Keanu, plea, strangled by the weight of his condemnation. Sunny Hostin stared at her hands. Sarah Haynes gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. Alyssa Farah Griffin's eyes darted between Keanu and the exit like a trapped bird. The audience, Asterisk frozen. Not a cough, not a rustle. Just 200 people holding a collective breath, suspended in the shockwave. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't rushed. It was a deliberate, terrifyingly calm uncoiling. He didn't slam his hands down. He didn't glare. He simply disengaged. His icy gaze, still locked on Behar for one final, devastating second, swept away as if she'd ceased to exist. He looked down at the small, black lapel mic clipped to his jacket. His fingers, steady, unhurried, betraying none of the fury that had just scorched the set, found the clasp. Click. A tiny metallic sound, amplified 1,000 times in the silence. The mic's thin wire slithered down his chest and pooled on the floor beside his boot. Asterisk sound of abandonment. Not angrily, not dramatically, with the quiet, unstoppable force of a tectonic plate shifting. He rose to his full height, a dark silhouette against the bright set. The easy, approachable movie star was gone. In his place stood something ancient, immovable, radiating a chilling aura of finality. He didn't look at the other hosts, didn't glance at the stunned audience, didn't acknowledge the frantic stage manager waving frantically just off camera. His eyes were fixed solely on the heavy, gray fire door marked exit at the back of the stage. Strodus is too frantic. March it implies anger. This was a solemn, purposeful procession. Each step was measured, deliberate, echoing slightly on the polished floor. His shoulders were squared, his head held high, not in defiance but in profound, unshakable dignity. The distance felt immense. Cameras, initially frozen on the host's shock, jerked into panicked life. Wide shots captured the stark emptiness where the world's biggest star had sat seconds before. Close-ups zoomed in on the discarded mic, a tiny, potent symbol of rejection, then whipped back to track his relentless progress towards the door. The director's voice, a high-pitched, panicked squawk, crackled in crew headsets. Cam 3 on the door, get the door. Wide, wide on the host, Jesus. No hesitation, no dramatic pause. His hand, steady, sure, found the metal push bar. Clunk. The heavy door swung open. The door began its slow, hydraulic sigh. Hiss, click. Sealing shut behind him. Hiss. He was gone. A collective ragged gasp tore from the audience, followed instantly by a tsunami of frantic whispers. Did he just... Oh my God. He left. Behar finally snapped back to life, color flooding her face, not embarrassment, but defensive fury. She leaned into her mic, voice brittle, attempting a dismissive laugh that cracked. Well, she announced, too loud, too sharp, I guess some people can't handle a little honest scrutiny. She forced a shrug, aiming for nonchalance, landing on petulant. Sensitive much? The Reckoning. Why Keanu's walk changed Hollywood forever. The door hadn't just closed behind Keanu Reeves. It slammed shut on an entire era of toxic entertainment. While ABC scrambled and The View stumbled through a damage control segment so awkward it made the audience cringe, Joy Behar offering a visibly forced, non-apology apology. If he felt attacked, that wasn't my intent, while Whoopi glared daggers. The real story was exploding far beyond Studio 1A. This wasn't gossip. This was a revolution. But the tremors went deeper. Hollywood's power structure shifted overnight. Agents for A-listers, Tom Hanks, Dwayne Johnson, Zendaya, fired off identical emails to every major talk show. Attaches. Effective immediately, our client interviews require 1. No personal trauma/tragedy questions. 2. No gotcha ambushes re past struggles. 3. Pre-approved topic list. Violation equals immediate walk-off. This is non-negotiable. See Reeves Clause. Studios back them. Universal Pictures postponed the Viewcast interview for their $200 million blockbuster, citing scheduling conflicts. A lie so thin it was a declaration of war. Netflix reshuffled promo plans, prioritizing podcasts and creator-controlled platforms. The message was clear. The talent holds the cards now. The ambush era is dead. This wasn't just about liking Keanu. It was collective rage against the exploitation machine. Audiences recognized themselves, the trauma vultures. Behar weaponizing Keanu's grief mirrored how society picks at pain for clicks. School shootings turned into hashtags, mental health crises into reality TV. The authenticity hunger. In an age of deep fakes and influencer fakery, Keanu's realness was sacred. Attacking it felt like a personal violation. The dignity deficit. Watching the internet's kindest soul finally say enough was cathartic. It screamed, "You don't have to endure disrespect to be polite." Keanu didn't lose his cool. He found it and taught 8 million people how to walk away from bullies with their soul intact. Joy Behar's unraveling and the show's soul. While The View limped on, Behar became a ghost haunting her own show. Ratings initially spiked on Schadenfreude, then plummeted. Guests grew wary, answers rehearsed. Watching her try to joke felt like watching rust flake off a sinking ship. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered of frosty dressing rooms and tense production meetings. ABC quietly auditioned replacements. The once sharp provocateur was now a cautionary tale. Cross the line, and the audience will erase you. Keanu's unspoken victory. He never mentioned The View again. Weeks later, paparazzi caught him buying coffee for a homeless vet in the rain. No PR team, no cameras, just Keanu. The silence was his manifesto. His next interview wasn't with Fallon or Kimmel. It was with a 14-year-old cancer patient on Make-A-Wish Zoom. He spoke about Star Wars action figures, not his pain. The new rules written in silence. 1. Respect is non-negotiable. Celebrities and everyone else owe no one their trauma. 2. Kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest rebuke to cruelty. 3. Walking away is power. Leaving a toxic space isn't defeat, it's victory. The final image. Not Keanu storming off. It's the mic on the floor. Small, discarded, powerless. A symbol of everything The View lost when it traded dignity for drama. And beside it, invisible, but felt by millions, the footprint of a quiet man who changed the game by refusing to play.